He's taking the sword off the wall.
Welcome back to Seeker and Confessor, a Sword of Truth podcast. This is episode 13, and I'm your host, Frank.
And I'm Lauren.
And today we're going to be discussing Chapter 20.
Of Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind.
That part's important.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the people, they know.
They know by now.
They know what's
13 whole episodes of this shit, and you don't know?
Yeah, we're coming out hot from last episode.
Listen, if you don't know, I got the hat. I got the racing jersey. If you're at home and you're listening only, you don't have sweet eyeballs on the two of us right now, you're missing out on this Lord Rahl hat and new edition, the Team Rahl Racing Penny Polo doohickey that I got on right here.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's a good collector's item.
This is an excellent collector's item. It smells a little bit like it's been in someone's house for a little while.
Well, it has.
And I love that. Like, it's got that, like, ooh, this came from, like, a friend's house sort of vibe to it, you know? And that friend is Terry Goodkind. Thank you, Terry.
You trying to show the back?
Oh, I want to, but let's see.
Oh, this is... Oh, God, okay.
Oh, man. Oh,
Don't...
man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Oh, good job. Yeah. You see it? Yeah, definitely.
Is it on there?
Yeah, it's very on there.
Yeah. This is a sweet shirt, Terry.
Yeah, good design choices all around.
On this one.
We also have, as promised, Cynthia's beautiful fan art behind us.
I want to blow it up and make it half the size of the wall if we can do that, but we're going to have to get in touch with a printer, I think, for that. But for now, we have a beautifully framed...
Blow it up half the size of the wall?
Yeah, I think, covering half the books and just,
Well, anyway, I don't know how well you can see it on camera. We'll see once I start editing, but it's there.
Just up the saturation to 1,000,000 and just let us be like pixely demons, but that'll be
I don't think saturation would help. It would be contrast, probably.
I don't know how to edit things. Welcome to our life.
Yeah, anyway, we're going into chapter 20. Before we start, do you have anything general that you want to discuss, or like any feelings
in general about the chapter, or in general
anything.
About like how life's going? It's pretty. Things are good. Things are
anything.
Anything. Yeah. This chapter feels a little bit like a call and response from the last two, almost. Like we almost got like
I guess so.
We got like an echo. This chapter is an echo, and it feels like a lesser version of what we've just gone through, in my opinion.
Yeah, you seemed down on this chapter.
I did. I felt down. I don't know why.
We were writing our notes, and he was saying, like, oh, it's going to, like, not be as good as last time, because I'm just going to be, like, shitting all over it. And I was like, why? I didn't feel that way.
Got dumps to take, I guess. I don't know.
I don't have any dumps.
Well... Why don't you...
Maybe a little bit,
why don't you start us off, then?
Okay, well...
Tell us all the gems you found along the way.
I will. I'm not saying they're even necessarily gems, but, like, I just wasn't that mad about it. I only have one thing I wrote down that I was being a little bitchy about.
Okay. I'm excited to get there. Let's see.
We'll see if you agree. I feel like you probably agree. But yeah, so we left off with our first Darken Rahl chapter last time, and we opened chapter 20 back with Richard and Kaylin, who were last seen chapter 18, going through the Narrows, came out of
that
rock there, and there was no path. So we have to strategize here.
Correct, yeah. We got no road to travel, and
strategize they do. I thought the solution made sense to me. And
it was logical.
It sounded stressful, and it made sense. So that's like a good combo.
Yeah, these two were sweating.
Well, yeah. So basically, because, as we know, the boundary has that green, hazy light to it.
Yep.
I guess the general idea was just that they were kind of walking very, very slowly and sort of like seeing where the light was versus like where there'd be a dark zone, and they essentially had to follow that.
Yeah, they would go with the glow.
We'll go against the glow.
Well, no, yeah, the increase of the glow,
right? Yeah.
But when the glow stopped, that's when it was like other way.
We're going into the underworld
going to the
now.
Dead zone.
And I thought, I found the journey that they were taking sort of has this
that
like
underworld journey.
Yes, in a way. I mean, it's not like a full underworld journey.
No, I mean literally, yeah. It's like a journey between the crevasse of the underworld.
Yeah, it had a very like metaphorical element to it, and
they're right in between the cheeks of the underworld.
They're hot dogging it.
Hot dogging it. Honestly, yeah. Richard and Kaylin hot dog the underworld.
Yes.
As Terry
trying to
intended
connect that
to what? Like
to the anything? Cream is the underworld.
Hot dog and a Twinkie feeling pretty.
I don't know. I don't think there's a connection. Yeah, so I thought I liked there was like a line right before they start doing this little technique where it says they couldn't go back and they couldn't stay at the split rock, so they were forced ahead. And I feel like, I mean, it's like, yeah, duh. Like, that's literally what was happening.
Yes.
But
through the repetitive minutia of literalisms, there's actually like a metaphorical truth in there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're kind of like, yeah, they really can't just stay there.
They literally cannot.
And there's probably like some impulse to be like, yeah, let's just stand here.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that's not a
They
good
actually
solution.
can't. They are being
ferried
ferried forward by danger at their back and glowing doom in front of them.
So Richard puts away, it's called the Night Rock.
The Night Stone.
The Night Stone. Okay, the Night Stone.
Effectively it's the Night Rock, yeah.
Sure, he puts that away to create a more noticeable contrast with the boundary lighting.
That rock didn't help at all. In fact, it only hurt.
No, didn't they need it for like a second?
They took it out and the shadows started swarming because it reacted to the light.
I know, but I think then they knew like where they were going. I don't know.
In the dark rock. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. The rock was mid at best.
And yeah, so like they're walking, avoiding the green. It's saying that they're going over fallen trees, climbing over
off boulders like down hills backwards. They're going nuts on this path. And a couple of times Richard just kind of mansplains boundary stepping. He's like, if you step here, Kaylin, it will grow dark and then you need to correct your... And she's just like, I guess
so. Yeah.
She's the only one that's been through the underworld so far.
Well, she's the only one that's actually like...
But she didn't take the path. She walked right through it.
I think.
With wizard magic, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Which still kills me. She could have done this and nobody had to die. They killed all the wizards.
But two, I guess, in the whole world.
They killed all the wizards. Chase couldn't tell them about this? He didn't know?
He wouldn't. Why would he do that? He's sworn to secrecy.
Oh my god, what a mess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I didn't stick out to me that he was mansplaining, but maybe he was.
It felt a little, but he's a woods guide.
True. Richard's like, his body is aching from the tension of the anxiety of like going so slow and like
being pursued in the way that they're being chased.
Well, they're not really being chased yet.
They're just being like slowly stalked. The shadows are still kind of coming. They are.
No. At some point, yes, they don't know that yet. There's like a moment where it's like Richard finally is like, oh my god, the shadows are coming.
I guess because they can't see them.
They don't know the shadows. I think they're like maybe, but they don't like...
The Nightstone's away.
Just because I feel like if they assumed the shadows were coming when they saw them, I got the impression that he was like, whoa, as opposed to like...
That's true. No, yeah, he did whoa it out. When he was like, oh no, they're coming now.
Yeah,
all right,
I don't know. Oh, but yeah, right away, it's basically, that was the next thing on the list.
Look at that.
He's once again calling them the shadow things. I want to know what's the, is it because shadow people is specifically what Penis Rahl was doing?
I think so.
So we're like not wanting to
We can't confirm that they are the same being yet, so Richard is creating a distinction in his head.
I think that is what it is, because I think, and technically I guess that would be confusing as a reader if it keeps saying shadow people, and then later on they're like,
no, you're right.
They're not shadow people.
They're not, I guess. I don't know if they are yet.
No, I think, isn't it kind of confirmed by the end of the chapter that they're not?
I'm not sure.
I'm not positive, but it sounded, because towards the end, Richard's like, when they like go back into the boundary, he's like, oh, I finally understand. They're not shadow people. They're like Underworld. There is a line. There's a line. It specifically says they're not shadow people. They're something else. I wrote it. We'll talk about it then.
I didn't read that part, I guess. I didn't pick this up. I didn't get any revelations.
I thought that he was confirming it.
We got the shadow people.
Who are like...
Penis, time bomb, whatever, magical detonators.
Yeah, it does make me think of... Wasn't that in Game of Thrones?
What?
In the book.
Which one?
I don't remember... Please, like I remember so long ago.
Vaguely what was happening.
I don't know. Somebody who got murdered by like a shadow. Didn't Melisandre give birth to like a shadow and then it went and killed Renly,
yeah,
right?
It was Renly.
That's what it made me think of.
Yeah. R.I.P. King.
Yeah, I don't think...
It should have been Renly.
Penis isn't giving birth to them. I don't think. You don't know.
We didn't get there yet.
But yeah, I guess it seemed like they were creating a shadow assassin was really labor intensive in Game of Thrones. Can't say how labor intensive it is in this universe.
I have no idea. We haven't met anyone that could give birth and had magic yet, I guess.
I mean, Addie maybe.
She's too old.
Caitlin.
She wouldn't do it. You know.
But she could.
I got you guys. I got them. The shadows are coming, right?
Yeah, so Richard sees, they're on their way, and then that's when they do like a little switcheroo, because it seems like Richard was in front first.
Yeah.
Then when the shadows are coming, he's like, Caitlin, you've got this.
He shuffles to the back.
He's walking backwards. So like Caitlin's going forward, Richard has his back to her. Yep. He's looking at the shadows.
Yeah, and then something happens to the shadows.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things.
They start, they're pursuing, and they don't step. They just kind of like hover, like video game non-clippy monsters. Like they just kind of like, and Richard's like, "Wow, they're just going over the boulders," and it's like, I don't know, they're like incorporeal monsters.
Yeah, they start having little faces. The tone shifts rather quickly.
And kind of well.
Yeah, it wasn't
I think
bad.
it was effective.
I thought so.
I think that Terry does that very good when like suddenly something changes and it affects the mind state of people. He just starts writing immediately in that thing.
Yes. And you kind of feel fooled a little.
You do. You go back and you're like, did I miss something? And you're like, yeah, I kind of just accepted the new thing.
I had like a second where I was like, oh, are they good?
Yeah. So did Richard.
I know. I guess I'm trusting Richard's narration way too much because I was like, well, if Richard thinks they're good,
well, he got punked
probably
on hard.
Good.
Yeah, I imagine them like little like Ghibli characters.
Yeah.
Like the little like forest things. They're like kind of sweet, kind of Buddha-esque or something. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, I think they're just like creepy little people seem nice.
Creepy little dudes, yeah.
And, right, but I guess that was when it started taking on the weird contrast of being like, at this point that they start having faces, I think you would automatically just start thinking of them as shadow people. You wouldn't still keep being like, shadow things. I think it is just a book
it's his
technique
thing, labeling them something different because he's not sure. I think that's it.
I think it was more just Terry being like, I don't want to confuse you, the reader.
Well, yeah.
So Richard, for like the way that it goes down, he starts being like, oh, they kind of look like they have faces. Because again, he's walking backwards and he's just like staring at them a lot. And my dude's also sleep deprived and in a creepy...
Sleep deprived. Situation. It's been like 24 hours. So like, I don't know.
If I hadn't slept in 24 hours, I would be sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Think about what you feel like.
Not great.
not good. Richard grips the sword, and we once again get he feels the truth.
Truth imprinting into his mitts.
And it says that anger surges up, but only finds fear and confusion and then wilts. So I think that's interesting. Yeah, fear and confusion can kind of stamp your anger.
They can,
right?
Depending, but they can.
I feel like that's important because I think in the future, in order to like be utilizing anger magic well, you probably have to be pretty good at not getting overwhelmed by fear and confusion.
This entire scene is Richard's first big failure. This is his lesson of you were not prepared, and it's reasonable that he wasn't.
Yeah, sure.
It's not like it's his fault. He was not prepared. He was not trained. He's not good at this yet, and because of that, he fails in a tremendous way. And I think through that failure, he taps newer and deeper levels of power and strength, which is what we'll get to. But
yeah, it's kind of like that interesting balance of like, clearly the message is ultimately you don't want to be confused and fail. So like minimize that. But at the same time, you have to be confused and fail to then be able to not do that in the future.
Yeah.
So it's like, where's the line of like you're being confused and failing too many times versus you're learning? I don't know.
No, for sure.
That's the question.
When it really counts, did you step up? And it really counted here, but he didn't step up.
It wasn't really his fault.
And it wasn't really his fault. But he fails his whiz save, and now he's here,
He's not so whiz right now.
He's not very whiz.
Yeah, so then as that's happening, so the anger surges. It is like, you don't sound so sure of yourself, so we're not going to stick around. And then at that point that it kind of goes away, that's when Richard starts perceiving them positively.
Yes.
The faces of the shadows. He's like, oh, they're actually here to like...
These are sweet little guys.
Yeah, they're just so nice. And they're actually here to... He's like, they're here to keep me company. Because I was feeling really shitty on this
and
walk.
Lonely. And it's so sad. You feel for him because you're like, oh no.
Yeah,
like,
at this point you
are
like...
giving it all up.
Oh, they're not good. But, and he
starts ruminating on how good death seems. Like I
don't know if he's thinking of it in those terms, though, right? He's more like, if I go with them...
Oh, I can finally put it down, this burden. Oh, I can finally... it's like... It sounds like a spa day, but it's eternal slumber, Mm-hmm. And it's sad. And Richard's sad, and he's scared, and he's tired.
So then at that point, Kaylin, they're still holding hands, and Richard's clearly like lost in the sauce because he says a cold hand is tugging at him.
Annoyingly, it is. It's so, it. You're like, oh no, Richard, you fell for it.
He did.
It switched everything in his brain. No, I know. The thing that's keeping him tugging here on this horrible, painful, scary journey, I wish it would just stop. It's really annoying.
Right, just let me stop. I don't want to have to...
Let me just put it all down.
Yeah.
That's what they're offering him, and he's whipped up by it. So he drops Kaylin's hand, and then away she goes.
Where to, we don't know. It's
the Darken Rahl's boudoir, I believe, but we'll find out.
Up.
We'll find out.
What? No. Really?
We'll get to it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, we'll see. I didn't think that was where she went, but maybe. Right, I guess true, because the whole time Richard's being like, oh, she probably went in, something similar probably happened to her, and obviously she died, but DR, he wants her.
Well, we talk about it a little bit in the next chapter, so.
Well, it's not in the next chapter. It's in this chapter.
It's in the sub chapter of this chapter.
The next section of the chapter.
Correct.
Yeah, he obviously did something and knows something about Kaylin and the boundary. He had a hand in it. But it's not. He's not like, and she's waiting for me up in my room. He doesn't say that.
No, he doesn't say it, but
he doesn't say that.
We'll get to it. Okay. We'll get to it.
And so anyway, he lets go of Kaylin's hand, and the shadows start circling around him, and it says, quote, he looked from one face to another, meeting the eyes of his saviors. And I was like, wow, that's intense.
It's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
This chapter has 3 arcs. It is, I'm holding your hand and we're scared. Richard gets goofed on by shadows and then freaks out Super Saiyan level for like 2 pages.
Yep.
And then he's sad and walks away.
No.
Yeah, I know.
And then he faces his father.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so then there's this whole like thing that keeps happening where like their hands are like almost touching him. Yeah. I didn't understand. I was like, am I supposed to be getting the image that the hands are like coming close, or that they're like going through him like a ghost?
No, I think it's that they're coming close, and it's kind of weird because you're like, why don't they just touch him?
Yes.
I think that if they touch him, he dies. But like to touch him, they need to like wear him down to nothing.
Why?
Because I think that's like how it works. Because they're sucking his like happiness and everything out of him, his resolve. Once he finally gives up, they're gonna kill him. I think they can't kill him until that, though.
Maybe.
Which is why he fights so strongly.
Yeah. So like, their hands are going close to him, and every time it happens, he like thinks he's feeling pain, but then he kind of like gets confused, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't. No, yeah. It was fine actually.
It was actually a nice feeling, I think."
And then the shadows are like, well, if you come with us, you won't even have to question the pain, because there just won't be any. He impulsively turns back to look for Kaylin, and then he kind of gets like snapped out of it a bit.
Yep.
And so then when that happens, he starts having memories of her.
He starts screaming her name.
Yeah, so then there's like this climax that's happening where Richard remembers Kaylin.
Say more.
He's hot dogging, and there's a big climax.
Came out of the crack, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Twinkie did something.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so there is a big climax here.
Yep.
And God, can I just keep going? Richard remembers Kaylin. He's looking for her. All the memories of their moments together comes to him. And again, this is part of that like metaphorical feeling of like, he's pulling up something on YouTube. I'm just not in the mood right now.
It's okay. Don't look.
What the fuck is gonna?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
It's metaphorical in the sense of like, I was looking at it like it was sort of like this entrance into adulthood. I don't know. I keep thinking about it in those terms for some reason. I guess it'd be, you know what? Oh, I'm saying I don't know why. You know, all the shit with like their dads and
I mean, the theme is there,
right? So like, I see this as like a little microcosm metaphor moment for that, where like again they come out of the Narrows. Oh my God, they're being birthed.
They're being birthed. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you get it. And it's real messy. It's sloppy. There's a mudslide outside of the Stonegina.
Shut up.
Terry said it. The shadows are coming to get you out of the vagina. I don't know.
We did just talk about shadows coming out of vaginas. We did.
Or the grippers are, I don't know, crabs.
I feel like when we're reaching for like weird jokes, you just start saying unhinged, disgusting shit that I don't want to publish onto the internet. Seriously. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, yeah, they were birthed, kind of. I don't know how that works with my metaphor, because it's a metaphor not for being birthed, but for becoming an adult. But I think that's...
Because birth is a transitional state.
Yeah, it's like right.
Like passing through the Narrows.
Oh, yeah, they were so birthed, and then...
So birthed. Oh my God, just get the Darken Rahl. No, I'm kidding.
They were so birthed. And then it's like a metaphor. Richard's going through, and like, God, his body's tense. He's like, this sucks. I'm stressed out all the time. Same. And then
there's a big climax, a big release,
and then he's like, oh, should I just die instead of dealing with the burden of being an adult and taking on all this responsibility? Most of us don't have to take on the responsibility of the world ending, but
you're right, most of us don't.
again, that's the metaphor for like the burdens of adulthood and taking on responsibility. And then Kaylin, as in most people's lives, that like connection to another human is the thing that makes you go like, okay, I'll do it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's
because without that, you're like, maybe I will go.
Maybe I'll go. Might as well. Maybe this ain't worth it.
Right, but the second you have that,
I didn't choose this.
You do get jolted.
I didn't ask for this.
Right.
And then, it's that lover, it's that friend, it's that thing that just connects you to the world so deeply that you're like, I'm gonna give it my all.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. But so that's why I wasn't hating on this, because I think as a metaphorical little journey and I understand there's a larger one at play in this book than via the series. We keep going out to all these levels, but on this little microcosm of a moment, I think it's a really nice metaphor for life.
Listen, I agree. So he thinks about Kaylin, and then Richard says,
I started blasting. No, I don't see so good, so I missed. Then they ran away. I ran after them. Bang! Tried to shoot him in the back, but I don't run so good either.
So anyway.
I don't even know, I don't know what the fuck that was. The audio's not going to translate.
If it doesn't, it doesn't, alright? But I just want it on the record that Richard started blasting, alright? So anyway, I started blasting, and that's what he did.
Yeah, he starts going, and he starts
going nuts. Sword magic go burr. That hangs out my nuts.
Do you want to?
What?
It's not a good idea. I was gonna be like, do you want to get the sword and show us?
Honestly. Ooh, that's not a good.
This is scary. I'm so scared. Okay, he's taking the sword off the wall.
Thank you.
Wait, you might want it for when he kills his dad. God. Oh my god. That was good. Did it feel good to get that out?
Good. It felt fucking good. Richard knew something I didn't know.
Holy shit.
Meanwhile, Zed's somewhere being like, that's good shit, Richard.
Are you trying to meme yourself?
I'm memeing myself. Bringing back my own joke.
So I don't know. Tons of shadows. The second he starts resisting and he's like, no, I remember that I got a baddie at home. I gotta go. The shadows are like, no, we gotta like send everybody at him. Facts. And then he did that.
Yeah. For like an hour. Multiple hours, actually.
I don't really know why this section was like split into two, but it was like the shadows kept coming. Then he like thought, well, no, I don't know why I said that part. It's not really what I meant. But like he's fighting all the shadows and then he thinks about Kaylin again after like a while of going against them. Yeah. And then he thinks like, was Kaylin seduced in the same way I was? Yeah. And he goes into such a rage thinking about it, then that the shadows just stop coming after him and they go back into the boundary.
I took it to be that he hit like sunlight. He did it for so long and they can't exist outside in the day.
He would have used that imagery like more very intentionally, especially, come on, Terry, and he was like, oh, I have some sort of like beautiful nature motif I could work with. He would have like went all in on that. True.
So it's either one of two things. It's either Richard unlocked some sort of repelling power.
That's what I thought.
Or Darken Rahl got Kaylin.
That could be too. Like, that is possible.
You're irrelevant to me. I'm not going to sit here and fight you for hours.
She got dragged through
to,
Yeah, he fought them. That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like it's something like that. I just think Terry would have described that beautifully if that were the case.
He would have.
So,
that's true.
And that is exactly when Richard says,
"Go off, Queen."
He said, quote, "That was what they were, not shadow people, but the things from the other side of the boundary wall, the things that had been escaping and taking people. That's what he says. Well, he specifically says they're not shadow people, so that made me think they have nothing to do with penis.
So they're the thing that looked like his dad. Not shadow people from the last war.
I guess.
And Richard.
But then I'm confused because penis obviously knows how to like utilize the underworld, seeing as how his inscription was left for Darken.
Yep.
So that would make me think that they are related in some way, but maybe there's still separate things.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know.
No, but I think what he's saying is like, you know how people have been saying near the boundary people have been disappearing and stuff. I think that's what he's referring to when he says they've been escaping the boundary and taking people.
For sure. That makes sense.
Because I feel like we were led to believe that it was like the Heart Hounds doing it, but now I think they're kind of being like...
In my mind, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But
I don't know.
I wasn't
But maybe it kind of matters because then I want to know. Oh my god. What is that?
That's what it was. The shadow people. The shadow things.
Well, I'm curious why they're taking people. What do they want them for?
I assume to eat them. I don't know. I mean, maybe Terry's like, they're building an undead army. I have no idea. Maybe
to eat them.
Maybe Darken needs them for like
sacrifices.
Things, yeah.
He needs to do his
He needs some cobblers, slaves or something.
Atheromancy. What the fuck was it called? His disemboweling.
Something like that.
Something like that. He needs to disembowel them.
Yeah. He's got to get one fact out of each of their guts.
So Richard's crying, thinking about how Kaylin's gone, and he hears, this is his final boss, he hears a man whisper his name.
Yep.
It's his dad.
Ricardo.
And his dad says, son, let me help you. Okay, going back to my metaphor.
Yeah.
This childhood to adulthood metaphor.
Correct, yeah.
Daddy came back.
Yeah.
And was offering, like, I'll take care of it for you. Your dad, granted, it's not his dad, but even if your parent is offering...
Edible. Yeah. You have to kill your father.
Sure, in a way, right.
It's the...
Well, like, even
he's
if
not
you're...
fucking his mom. That's not the one. That's not the one I was talking about.
What?
The other half of that one, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And, well, he is fucking the mother.
Holy shit.
Confessor.
Yo. Let's cycle back though. What was that bridge all about? There's got to be some like deep meta. We never figured it out. The one that like Zed collapsed.
Oh yeah, I want to
like
think
7
about
episodes ago. What did that? It's probably like some Masonic tradition. And Terry's like, gotta get the bridge in there. Like, you know, the bridge that is booby trapped.
I have to think on it.
I know. You got it. It's like to Terabithia or whatever.
Anyway, it's not his dad. But even if it was his dad, I think the messaging is like, even if your parent, when you're an adult, if your parent is being like, I'm going to take care of that for you, it's like not real.
No,
you know,
right.
like it's
100%.
just like, you
That's
can't keep doing this. Like you're going to die. It's not good for me, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Like don't, it's bad for,
you need to fully separate
right.
yourself.
Richard's dad dying is you know, everything kind of works on multiple levels. So it is plot relevant and impacts his character on this very like literal plot level.
Yes.
And then you have like the metaphorical level where Richard's dad dying is being like, Richard has to be a man.
Correct.
And he no longer has dad.
He doesn't.
Like
he's got no more dad. He is dad now.
Right. And then Ghost Dad comes and is like, I got it. You don't actually have to be an adult. And that's very tempting.
It's extremely tempting.
Richard,
it's the number one thing.
Obviously.
Arrested Development and all that.
Doesn't take it. I thought this scene, see, like, you're being such a hater. I loved this scene.
Go ahead.
I like the descriptions. It says, Richard stared woodenly at him, morning lit, overcast, washing everything in wet gray light. The only colors was the glowing green around his father who held his hands open. I don't know. I just like the imagery of it.
It's very good.
Like him, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then
I like this.
There was also, I didn't write it down, but it's like this same part Richard starts like walking towards his dad without really saying anything, and he's dragging the sword behind him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Classic. Yeah.
I thought it just seemed cool.
Yeah.
Did you not feel that way? You weren't taken?
I don't know. It didn't. It's true. It's all the things that you're
I
saying.
liked it.
I don't know if it feels like rote to me at this point because it
is,
feels so
well,
like.
A lot of, but
I know.
rote things still, sometimes they're rote. I don't know. There's like rote and it's still good, and then there's like rote and it is kind of boring. I found it rote, but like still good.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, this was definitely the only part of this segment that I cared about at all, so there's something there.
But me, I don't know. I was reading it all with this, like, even before we got to this part, I was like really going with
Thinking
this.
of those layers. And
Yeah.
stuff. That would have helped.
So I think when I
yeah.
got here, what I was like, I felt
Because
really,
to me, I was like, this is a confusing anime fight. Like, I'm not really, like,
I felt
following.
vindicated metaphorically.
That's fair.
I was like, oh, Terry's on the same page as
Yeah.
me.
But he drives that thing home. He slangs it, you know?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not going to read what I wrote, because...
You have to now.
I wrote, the shadows are gone, but one tries to be clever and pretends to be his dad again. Foolish. He edges the shadow so hard, then stabs his dad in the heart. Based.
Why are you writing your notes like you're like some sort of weird narrator who has like...
This is what I do. This is what I do. It just reminds me of what I felt about it.
Based.
And it is based.
It's hella based, but
So, I'm
he
right.
says, he pulls out the coolest line. Are you gonna
Please
shit on this? Because you
deliver it.
shouldn't.
Deliver
No,
it.
you deliver it.
I didn't write it down.
Richard slams his sword through his dad's chest.
Ugh.
And he says, "How many times, dear father, must I slay your shade?" That's a sick
That's
way
a good line.
to kill your fake ghost dad.
It's not on the lame list of ways to kill you.
That's such a cool thing to say.
It's a great thing to say.
And he had it right, just like ready to go. He's tired, he's exhausted.
He's not, because that's the thing. It's not even like
I love it.
He didn't plan it. He
No.
wasn't like, this whole time when I get to the boundary and see my dead dad again, I'm gonna like drop this line as I cut him down. No,
No, but then it made me think like that theme of like he feels like he has to keep doing this. He has to keep
You're right.
coming
You're right.
up against his dad and working through all these feelings.
Well,
and
yes, and coupling that with the metamorphosis that's happening in him right now for failing Kaylin and committing. I don't know how that's on.
I was saying that the theme of him feeling like he continuously has to like come up against his dad as he's growing into an adult and either like reject it or take it in but move past it, not rely on his dad, all these things. Like I just think that's kind of what that
Absolutely.
exclamation meant.
For sure. His dad dying in the first place is his fault. Indirectly. But it is because of him. Right?
Like, not really. His dad took it upon himself to even get them involved in this whole
Well, that's
thing in the first
true.
place.
Yeah.
You know,
Richard had nothing.
that would be
Oh,
true if Richard was the one who found the book
True.
and then his dad got involved. But it's the opposite.
That's true. And
My man
it's not even his dad. So, like, there's so many layers.
took it
yeah.
very much upon himself to, like, get in the middle of this. So
You got a good point there.
that's
Yeah.
his problem, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Papa Cypher. What was his dad's name? Do we not have that?
No, they say in the next chapter.
Do they? Georgie boy. All right.
Sorry, it's not the next chapter. I keep saying that. Anyway, after being very cool about murdering fake dad,
Deaf.
Richard continues down the path alone, and he's holding the tooth necklace, which shows that, like, he, even despite his bad assery and pulling out that line and everything, and the fact that he's like, I am an adult, I'm doing it, he still has the emotional connection to his dad. Like, it still makes him feel sad. And he still feels like, absolutely. He's still like, I don't know, it's like, to me, that shows that he's like, still George. His dad's name is George.
Yeah.
George's influence is still part of
George's influence.
George's influence. It's still a part of Richard's like emotional
and
life.
I think that's part of the fear of becoming an adult. I think that you think you have to give those things up, especially for men, that you can't hold that childhood emotionality when you become this doer of things. And this is proof that, if anything, that's the last thing you lose. You know, that's like at your core, you know? That's what motivates you to do.
Yeah, true.
So
I agree.
That's actually, I didn't remember that he wrote it like that, and that actually sells me a little bit harder now.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's quite a good detail to put in there.
I thought it had a lot of like deftness to it.
Maybe I was tired when I read it. Maybe I was a sleepy guy. You know?
Are you like, should I have like considered that?
Yeah, you're not thinking about me being a sleepy guy sometimes when I'm like reading? I didn't even put my stickies in there.
What? Why?
I didn't know where they were, and I was too sleepy
to
find
know,
them.
Frank really needs more stickies.
I got thoughts, alright?
I don't know why
sometimes their sword goes burr, but sometimes they're really good.
So Richard's walking down the path, obviously feeling sad, and it says, he knew that his life was not his own. It belonged to his duty, to his task. He was the seeker, nothing more, nothing less. Not his own man, but a pawn used to be used by others. Which, this didn't really fit in my metaphor. But,
Uh-oh. Edit. Take it out.
What do you mean?
Take out the line.
No, I don't know. It didn't really fit into the metaphor. Other than, I was like, maybe it does, because in this part of the journey that he's in, he's feeling very like, woe is me because of his big failure. So he is kind of being like...
I don't think this doesn't fit. I think this is a pitfall of becoming an adult. A lot of people do feel like they have to just self-sacrifice and not enjoy themselves. So I think that...
It's like less
not that he's going to be having a good time
right, it's less about
now,
enjoyment, more about like, why he doesn't
and like
feel like he has any control over his own destiny and
right now he doesn't. So
like he does and he doesn't, but he does. He has some, obviously.
He does. And Zed's going to meet up with him probably a day and a half, and things are going to be better. Yeah, but he does say, I'm a bringer of death, which is the thing that he didn't want to be.
When did he say that?
What?
He said, I'm a bringer of death?
He didn't... I feel like you would have wrote it.
He said, I am a bringer of death?
I am Richard, destroyer of worlds. Let's see what he said.
He really Oppenheimered it?
He Oppenheimered it.
I don't think so.
He did!
He did?
He did!
What did he say?
He was no different from the dark things in the boundary. A bringer of death.
Where?
Right before the little sword. A bringer of death. And he knew quite clearly who he was going to bring it to.
Oh, yeah, he does say that.
This court is in session.
You all crap.
Ownage. 1 for Team Rahl Racing.
What am I?
0 for Confessor Scooters over there.
What?
You ride around on little scooters. I got the race car.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. Did you want logic there?
I didn't know what it meant. I am a bringer. Yeah, I guess you're right. He didn't.
And he literally said that to Zed. I won't be an assassin. I won't do that.
Okay.
All right, so let's be real. We're back in Tahara.
Let's be real what?
Let's be real. We're having a good time now. We're back in the sunny paradise.
We were worried we weren't going to get Darken Rahl, but it seems like
we thought maybe chapters and chapters. But
no, he's in it now.
We zipped right back. Yeah. Daddy Rahl, Father Rahl.
Okay, so I have things.
Things. Let's have them.
I have things about a couple of things about the chapter I didn't love, but
Okay, let's get him.
overall, he's doing, at certain parts, Terry's doing a good job of, like, he drops things where you really are like, I really want to know what that means.
He's the breadcrumb king.
He's good at
Breadcrumb
it.
king.
He is really good at it, and I think I do love me a good breadcrumber. And I think like a big portion of like why the books feel good to read, and especially like why they felt good to read initially, was the breadcrumbing.
Oh yeah, 100%. And he stays solid for a while. I mean, after a little, like maybe like 6 books, it starts to be like, all right, I know these breadcrumbs, but for a while, you're like, damn, what are these Sisters of the Dark doing? Like, what is magic powder? You're like, oh, God, I want to know.
Yeah, he starts... I wasn't feeling so breadcrumbed before Darken Rahl showed up, but now that he's here, I'm getting... It's really impacting me.
Well, you're like, what's going to happen to poor Carl? Like,
there's a lot.
You're going to you already have Underworld powers. Why are you going again? Like, what are you getting down there?
Well, that's what I was really confused by.
I know.
I was like, well, he's been going. They said that, right?
He's been going. So I think maybe he's constantly doing this.
I thought that, but I don't know. Then I was like, who knows?
I think it probably, this is how he's destroying the boundary sort of thing. You know?
Maybe.
He's probably going down there and like loosening a couple of bricks, just filing away at the mortar.
Well, so we like open up right where we left off. So Carl, still buried in the sand, fell asleep with Darken Rahl.
He did.
With him. And then we show back up right as Carl's waking up.
That's it.
Darken Rahl is sitting cross-legged on the grass in front of Carl, kind of like in a meditation position, it sounded
he's
like.
He's yogaing out, like,
And he's smiling, quote, as he thought about what had happened with Confessor Kaelin at the Boundary. So to me, that does not sound like a man who's like, she's in my room, but maybe she's on her way to
That's what
room.
it is. Yeah,
right.
That's, I think, along those lines.
Sure.
Because he's like getting a little horny about like what I'm gonna do to her. He's
He's
like, ooh, I got her, and then soon I'm gonna.
Well, he stole her to breed her, so yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And now he's thinking about the breeding.
And now he's thinking about it. So.
Yeah. But he did. Get a little eyebrow glisten going.
He is back.
He's
at
back. Triple finger lick.
So Carl wakes up, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's made very clear in this chapter that this magic to work needs Carl to be willing. Like, he has to want to help Darken Rahl. That all makes perfect sense.
Sure.
The approach now makes sense when you have that information.
Mm-hmm.
Having him, and I know that it's the logic here is going to be that it's part of the magic, but like having him buried
up to the neck
at this
sand.
point,
it's a really hard sell for me to be convinced that you could bury a child up to his neck and still get him to really love you and want to help you.
I don't agree, because Stockholm Syndrome's a thing, and I just feel like you could definitely, like, and he does. He's just emotionally abusing this kid.
I know what he's
in
doing.
spades, and I don't know.
Okay, but my thing is, like, okay, from, like, a storytelling point of view, because here's the thing. If the magic actually, this existed and the magic actually worked like that, that's one thing, because, like, you'd be like, I just gotta work around it. But I'm like, Terry's making up the magic.
He is, yeah, totally.
So, like, I don't know, to me, I get what you're saying. Yes, literally, is it possible for that to happen? Yeah,
but would it be easier to, like, do it in a room for a couple of days and then get him into the sand pit once he's already loving you? Yeah, probably.
Absolutely.
But maybe he needs to be in the sand while it's happening. I don't know. Yeah,
I know,
and
but
you were
Terry
saying Terry made that up. 'Cause it's not based on any real spells. And I'm like, are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Do you know that?
I'm saying, like, as the writer,
you don't know about the Sumerian.
You have to think about the spell. Like, if you wanted to be like, that's not how the spell works, because I want it to slowly. I would 100% believe it would be extremely easy to do
if the boy was just like in some little room and then we were going to progress here, etc. But like starting here seems like super hard mode. I'm just curious why. I think it's to be like, Darken Rahl is so good at this.
Does he like the challenge?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
These kids can't help but give me their heart and soul. I'm gonna like make it as hard for me as possible. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird choice from Terry. It just makes it more diabolical and like, but also more unbelievable.
I'm just saying it adds a layer of unbelievability that didn't need to be there at all.
Yeah, agreed.
That's all I'm saying from a writing perspective.
Yeah. I don't know why he did it.
Again, if you're in the universe, you're Darken Rahl and you have to do that, then you have to do it. But
then we would have gotten a literal description of the actual spell.
Believability, like in these terms, doesn't seem high on his list of...
No.
Carl wakes up. Like, I'm just like, can Carl even really sleep in these... I don't know. Can you sleep like that?
I don't know. I've never tried it.
I really don't think I could. Carl wakes up and he's being like, oh, wow, you actually stayed all night. And Darken Rahl's like, I wouldn't lie to you. And I guess that's true. Well, that's not true. He lies to him literally in this chapter.
If you're describing feeding a child gruel and saying it's blueberry cobbler, then that's a lie. I guess it is.
But it is.
I guess that's a lie.
He said he baked it himself. Yeah, so then they kind of have this whole back and forth where Carl is saying, like, I guess I was kind of silly to be scared. I personally think this child is going along with this far too fast.
Yeah, I'm like, is he magicking him to, like, be agreeable? Like,
I don't think so. No, because that's, like, the point. It has to be, like, his free will.
But, like...
I'm not saying it's an impossible task. I don't find the quickness with which it's happening and the way it's happening does not read as realistic to me. I know people everybody's going to be like, I think it's realistic. Okay.
It's not realistic. It's totally not. And doing it outside of the room would have already been hard.
No, I don't see that. I don't think would have been hard. That's why I don't get why we didn't just approach it that way.
Because if we're going to go literal, we're going to go realistic. Darken Rahl's a man who murders people for anything.
I know, and they would know that.
So this 8-year-old boy would be shitting his fucking pants.
I know.
Being in his presence. There's no way, A, that he would sass him as much as he's been doing, and B, he'd trust him for a second. He'd be crying every day, every second.
Like,
and then you're telling me Darken Rahl stole him from his family, buried him up to the neck, and then just, like, hung out with him for an hour, and he's like... Dad, you're actually cooler than my real father.
And, like, the examples, like, as you go of the conversations where Darken Rahl is kind of, like, is not kind of manipulating, just dead-ass manipulating. It is good manipulation.
It is good.
For a kid, especially for a kid, you're like, totally, this conversation would impact you as a child.
Like an 8-year-old boy buying this hook, line,
I think I would have been... But so that's what frustrated me about the idea that it wasn't like, oh, he's in this, oh, he got captured, but oh, we put him up in this beautiful room. Darken Rahl's going in having these really good manipulative conversations because I would have bought it 100%. Like I would have been like, oh, I can totally see why the kid's falling for this. He's in a fucking palace. He's being hella manipulative, gassing him up. I see why Carl's on board. This starts to be like, I don't know. I just don't find it as effective because I don't think Carl would just this easily. Even if Carl was so scared and deeply wanted to go along with Darken Rahl, I just don't think your nervous system as a child would like allow you to not be like screaming.
I agree. All these things against him and reputation. There's no way this kid's like in one day.
And I guess I would also buy it if I got the feeling that Carl was kind of faking it. Like if Carl was kind of like, I'm afraid if I disagree with him.
Sure. That's not happening.
I'll get my head chopped off, so I'm going to like force myself.
I'll tell him anything he wants to hear.
It comes across like Terry's very much trying to convince me that Carl is having an okay time. I'm like, no, he's not.
He's not.
That's not.
Carl's having a bad time.
Carl's not having an okay time. Let's be real. So, Carl says, I guess it was kind of silly to be scared. My father says I'm being foolish when I'm afraid of the dark. Again, if they were like sitting on a bed having this conversation, my ass would buy it.
if Darken Rahl scooped this boy out of poverty,
Yeah.
put him in the palace,
Yeah.
put some pretty girls around him, gave him like grapes like that he's never had before,
For real.
and was just like, I'm actually super nice, and I don't know, people got a weird opinion of me, but like, I'll be your friend, and your dad's kind of a jerk, and I would never do that to you. This kid's buying it.
Yeah.
You bury anyone up to their neck in sand, they're freaking out.
Yeah.
And yet, here we are.
So then basically Darken Rahl's like, actually, you know what? You're right. Your dad is wrong. You should be afraid of the dark. He's an idiot and he's not listening to you. And if you truly love somebody, you listen to them. Which, like, yeah, as a kid, you'd be like, oh shit.
Well, he's taking power away from the parents.
Right.
And taking it for himself.
Yeah.
Which is actually an interesting metaphor for what we just talked about with Richard. That's a parallel.
How?
Well, this is a child, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
But he's assuming the father role.
Yeah.
Falsely.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Shade. But.
Oh, true. Well, Darken Rahl sent the Shade.
Honestly, he did. So
he loves fake
daddying people.
fathering. But so did George.
George liked fake fathering too.
Just saying things. I'm just free word association right now. Anyway.
But so did George. Didn't he?
Didn't he? I don't know. I don't know enough to like make any claims right now.
I don't know. Can we talk about the name Carl? What are the naming conventions where we got Darken, Demmin, and Carl hanging out?
I don't know.
The king's name is Darken. It should be King Carl, and Darken's the poor boy in the country.
Is he the king?
He's the Lord. He's the chapter calls him the master.
Master.
Yeah, that's
I haven't seen the word king pop up. I'm just saying.
They're equivalent. I'm not here to talk about titles of nobility. Dahara. He's the guy. He's the goat. He's the top dog, number one, numero uno.
No, because there's Queen Melina.
Yeah, she's in the Midlands.
Oh. True.
Dahara is a single despot-owned just dictatorship where the Rahls got the whole caboodle. The Midlands are a fiefdom of kings and queens. And I don't know what the fuck democracy or whatever is going on in Michael's zone, but
yeah, I don't know.
Elected officials.
Right, okay. Carl apparently is physically harmed when he comes home late. Yeah. And Darken asks Carl if he has a dog, which he does. And he's
Tinker.
Yeah, which for some reason that was like one of the things that stood out to me. I was like, I remember that. Why would I remember that?
I do. I remember the dog. I don't know.
Yeah, so then they're talking about how Carl has a dog and the dog has run away. And then Darken Rahl's like, well, when your dog came back, did you hit it? And Carl's like, no, of course not.
I would never hit him.
And then Darken Rahl's like, that's so, if you seem like you love your dog more than your parents love you, basically. And you're like, it is kind of a good argument.
It's kind of like that. Because Carl said the adage of, they hit me because they're worried. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so you'd be worried if Tinker ran away. Would you hit Tinker when Tinker came home? And he's like, I would never do that. And he's like, well, why not? And he's like, well, then Tinker wouldn't want to come home. And he's like, right.
You don't want to go home.
And you don't want to go home.
Which, again, you
want to stay in the people's palace.
If he was in a fine little boy's bedroom, great argument. Buried in the sand, you still might be like, good argument, but I don't like this.
I'd rather get like abused at home than hang out.
I think I'll take
the sand pit.
Belt like for like 20 seconds over living buried up to my neck in sand. But what do I know?
You don't know Carl.
I don't know Carl. And so then Carl starts crying, obviously, and Darken Rahl is petting his head and saying, when this is all over, if you want to live here instead of home, you can. Oh. So it's kind of interesting because you're like, oh, he is still like very much committed to telling Carl like, oh, there's like an end point to this.
Yeah, which is a lie. Well, no, I mean, there is an end point.
Who knows? But like, Like, maybe it's a little bit more believable in terms of Carl putting up with the circumstances. Because I guess if you're like, oh, the leader needs me, he's kind of being nice to me, and it's temporary. Like, I just have to do this for XYZ amount of days, and then I leave.
True.
Maybe you'd be willing to put up with it. I don't know.
Yeah, but then are you going to get to that place in your heart where you're like, I would do anything for you, if you're like, I can't wait to get the fuck out of here? Like...
That's true.
You know? You're like, oh, there's an end point, and I'm very happy there's an end point. Is he trying to, like, make Carl be like, I wish it never ended? Kind of. Because he could live here now.
No, because I feel like, yeah, imagine you were, like, poor, and you're like, I'm going to do this thing for the king. And the king is so nice to me and he loves me and I can come back whenever I want. Like, I think, yeah, you would be like, oh, that's a good circumstance to be in.
That's such a power fantasy for a kid.
I know.
That's so sad, too.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly why he's so evil. Like, he's taking that thing and being like, oh, I like you. I'm choosing for you to live in the palace with me.
Right.
You're going to be a prince. And
yeah.
you're just like, nah.
So, Darken Rahl asks Carl what he wants to eat. Carl says blueberry pie.
Weird choice.
No, but think in terms of, like, peasants. It's probably, like, the best thing he's ever eaten.
True. That's a good point. He asked what his favorite food was, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, that's probably your favorite.
What is he...
I had a note about that. I was like, why blueberry pie? Can't be a red fruit.
Oh, my God.
It can't be a red fruit, because penis poisoned them all.
So true.
Right? Consistency.
That's
Terry was probably
true.
like, oh, he probably likes a nice raspberry. Oh, wait a minute. No. Can't be that. Almost got me.
Well, yeah, I'm like, what would be the best food you would have? Like...
Pie, 100%. Yeah. It's got to be a pie.
He's not eating, like, Haagen-Dazs, so...
There ain't no Haagen-Dazs. There ain't no Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
And so Darken Rahl's like, sure, sounds good. He walks into this, like, little side room off of the Garden of Life where Demmin is inside and both of the guards are inside. So, like, the only 3 people that were there before. So, and I don't know, the whole imagery of this is so strange. It's like Demmin making gruel over like a cauldron,
just making
and
some
then like
gross slop.
The guards are just standing there, and like they keep emphasizing that the room's like really small and hot. And you're like, why are they
smells bad?
Yes. Why? Okay. Does gruel smell bad?
I assume it's magic gruel. Like, I assume this is like a specific potion type thing that he's force feeding this child. I don't think it's like gruel is. I mean, gruel by its very name is bad. But
I guess maybe
nobody wants to eat.
I'm not
gruel.
familiar. I guess I always just think gruel is like oatmeal, but maybe that's not true.
Yeah, no, gruel ain't oatmeal.
What's gruel?
Gruel's like just shit thrown in a pot. Gruel. Wait, is there like a recipe for gruel?
It's a food consisting of some type of cereal, such as ground oats, wheat, rye, or rice, heated or boiled in milk. Yeah, that sounds like oatmeal to me.
That's oatmeal-esque. It's oatmeal coated.
It's not oatmeal coated. It just is oatmeal.
You want some gruel?
Historically, gruel has been a staple of the Western diet, especially for peasants. I think gruel is oatmeal. And I remember, this is what I remember thinking the first time I read it. Here's my one callback.
We got a flashback moment. Let's hear it.
It's not worth mentioning, but I'll mention it anyway. My memory is that I remember thinking that it must taste like the Quaker Oats.
I was just about to say blueberry and cream.
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah, it probably does. Absolutely.
Right? I was like, oh, it's obviously going to taste like that.
Yep.
That's what I still imagine that.
That's probably what it did taste like.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know why. If it's oatmeal, why does it smell so bad? Anyway.
Because I think it's like a potion oatmeal.
I just wrote, quote, Darken Rahl says, his villain line. I don't know why I just like the way it was written. Dish me out a bowl of that slop so it can cool.
Yo, that is so evil.
Like what? He just came.
Dish me out a bowl of that slop.
He came strutting in. Yeah. He's like, I'll get you blueberry pie.
Dish me out a bowl of that slop so it can cool down. That's what he said.
I don't know. I just like the way he has Darken talk. It's tickles me.
Yeah.
And so then he starts talking to Demmin, and Demmin
He's
says
back.
he's going to leave and pay respects to Queen Melina. And then we get a major breadcrumb. And I am having like memory tip of the tongue with this.
Okay.
Darken Rahl says, sure, go to Queen Melina, but on the way, I need you to stop and tell the dragon that I want her. Which, like, that's so cool and exciting. And you're like, what is it, a dragon? Is it just somebody called the dragon? I want to know so bad what the fuck they're talking about.
And I don't remember.
But see, that's what I mean. Because I was like, oh my God, I remember this. But I, like, can't remember what it actually is.
Here's what I'm confused about, because there's a dragon on the cover of the book.
I don't think it's that dragon.
There's a tooth that belongs to some sort of beast, and the dragon
the beast
was lowercase. It wasn't a title.
I know.
So he's talking about a dragon, maybe.
I don't know if it's a dragon.
And did you get the like the feeling that it was a her? That it was a she?
Say that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Tell the dragon I want her.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Demmin says that the dragon doesn't like him. So then that makes you be like, oh, so is the dragon, like, iconic?
Yeah, hates pedophiles.
Right. So, like, we're
board,
like, oh,
yeah.
she hates Demmin. Now I love her. But who is she? Who is she?
Can I read my quote?
Yeah.
The dragon and I have one thing in common without knowing anything about them. We hate this clown. So, I mean, yeah, same.
Right, so that made me like,
Yeah.
oh my God, who is she? I
Who
just want
is-
to know.
who is
So then...
We love everything about the dragon.
Darken Rahl says she doesn't like anyone and she won't eat you, which that does suggest she is a dragon for real.
It does suggest that.
But I kind of feel
But
like
it could
maybe
be-
it's a red herring.
It feels like one.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to know so bad. I hope
you-
I find out next chapter. I probably won't.
Odd people. No, I'm kidding.
It says she won't eat you. She knows what I'll do if she stretches my patience. So it does give you the vibe that, like, whoever this is not, like, firmly on Darken Rahl's side or anything. It's
True.
like he's threatening the dragon.
I don't know why you just saying that makes me think like Darken Rahl has this dragon's baby somewhere and he'll hurt it if she does anything out of line. And I don't even know if it's a dragon for real. So I don't know where that came from, but if that's right, that's weird.
I have no idea.
Is there a baby dragon out there somewhere?
Well, I already predicted that I thought there was an important dragon egg at some point.
You did.
Remember?
The Stone of Tears.
I don't think it has anything to do with this, though. I feel like that's much later. If it happens at all.
Yeah, if at all.
Well, anyway, I really want to know more about this queen over here. And I don't mean Queen Melina.
Not this queen.
And so Demmin says the dragon she'll ask how soon you'll need her. Darken Rahl's like, tell her it's none of her concern, and I said so.
Damn.
And then Darken Rahl tells Demmin he needs to return in 2 weeks because apparently whatever's going to happen with Carl's going down in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
we'll be wrapping it up by then.
Demmin's like, oh, do you actually think you need that long? And I'm like, if he's buried up to the neck in the sand that whole time, yeah, he definitely needs at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I feel like Demmin's tone is all over the place. He's like a Darken Rahl cheerleader. Mm-hmm. He's also like a lowly pedophile, like creepazoid. Yeah. He's also like this like tough, like
I know. I
like
think that's
leader
intentional.
of the guard, and then he's also like snarky towards him. You know what I mean? He's constantly like scraping and bowing, but then also being like, "Prove it to me."
I feel like it's intentional, don't you?
Yeah, but what is the intention? That this man is just every tone?
I think he's deeply conflicted and not at peace with himself.
Well, yeah,
so like
that's
things
for sure.
are just kind of like
jutting out and weird.
Yeah, like whatever emotional reaction he's
very
having.
Unstable
yeah.
and filled with a lot of different feelings.
That's how I'm taking it.
Okay,
right now.
I buy that, and with the little bit that we get between them, that they have this long-standing relationship.
See, yeah, I actually wrote that.
Yeah.
Later, they have another part of the conversation later where I was like, how long have these people been working together? I don't understand.
I took it to mean like they grew up together. Like they're
maybe they
old
said
friends.
that? I feel like they did.
That
say
was
that.
said in this chapter. I think that they're kind of like old buddies.
Then that makes
Yeah.
the part of the conversation later make less sense to me. So Darken Rahl's like, yeah, it's probably going to take 2 weeks because I need his complete trust, freely given a pledge of his unconditional loyalty. Otherwise, I, Darken Rahl, won't be able to return from the Underworld. And yeah, I guess I've just been trying to figure out, like, he clearly has already gone to the Underworld and come back. Has he done this process every time? Or is it that, like, there's, like, a beginner's version he's good at, and this is like he needs to do something extra here that he needs the boy for. It's one or the other.
I don't know.
Then Demmin's like, oh, we have another problem.
Yeah.
We received reports that the tracer cloud is hidden behind other clouds.
And then we get the description of how the cloud hid in the other clouds again.
It just keeps going.
They won't let it go.
To me, this is like the worst part of Terry's writing. And I don't think it seems to bother other people as much. I find it so beyond, like, irritating.
You get, like, 12 characters who are all pedantic in a little bit of a different way, and you let them all be fully pedantic at each other.
I don't feel like it's necessary. I don't like the way that...
It's almost like a Monty Python sketch. It's like...
Yeah, you're like, are you fucking, like, trolling me right now?
Like, can you wrap it up? Like, Richard be like, how did you hide the cloud? Well, I hid the cloud by attaching it to other clouds. But you couldn't unhook it from me. You're right. I did that because I created this thing where the clouds followed this cloud around.
And
okay. And it's like, boss, the cloud's gone. How is that possible? Well, you see, he took the cloud and he attached it to other
I know. I don't know. And it's like, I get it. It needs to be explained, and sometimes that's hard. But, like, there are a lot of fantasy authors, and they're somehow doing it. Somehow they're doing it. They're explaining magic systems to us, and it doesn't feel like this to me. So, I don't know. I get that it is complicated. It's his first book, so I'm going to give it... I'm totally willing to, like, give it a pass, but that, to me, doesn't mean that it's good.
No, I agree.
Again, I just liked that Darken Rahl laughed and said, the old wizard is up to little tricks to vex me. I just like how he says things.
You're number one stan.
I'm Carl.
You are Carl.
I'm Carl.
You got a Carl
up
Jr.
to little
over
tricks
here.
to vex me. He's like a little, like, Keebler elf or
Yeah,
something.
and like 4 lines later, he's like weeping with anger.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, but it still just makes me laugh. And then Demmin's like, well, hey, but the book is so important, and that's what the cloud was for. And then Rahl's like, the book is important. I said the cloud.
Oh, God.
Shut up!
That's how I feel.
Anyway, yeah, no. And honestly, that's not even the worst part.
No.
It's like later they even get into it. Oh, they get into it. So annoying. And then, okay. I kind of found the lore with penis interesting. Did you find it interesting? What we find out when he's talking about the boxes of Orden and stuff.
I'm not remembering.
Penis, then Darken Rahl starts talking, explaining why the book's important to Demmin, because Demmin dared question if the book's important. And he's like, yes, the book's important. My father, Penis, told me when I was a boy that the boxes of Orden and the Book of Counted Shadows exist, and Penis is trying to recover them, but he wasn't well studied enough to find them because he was, quote, more a man of battle. So I think that's interesting that Darken has this, like, warlord dad, and then he's his little fae self.
Yes, yeah. But his dad
so
encouraged that.
Exactly.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, I've never... I'm like, have I ever heard of this? Where it's like, oh, you have the big army dad who's like, son,
you need to study.
Just be smart. Don't worry about all this shit. Just be like.
I guess it is a trope, But, like, not in
really.
fantasy, for certain.
Yeah, I don't know. No, you don't come across it that often.
No, there probably are, like, army dads who was like, don't be like me, go to college.
Well, I would
blah, blah,
also
blah.
say, usually those characters are the good guys. They're not the villains.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah.
Penis literally got the best instructors to tutor him so Darken could just be, like, a genius.
Which...
And then that's when he's telling the story. He says, and then he was murdered. And he pounded his fist down on the table, his face turning red. And he starts like,
having a little attack,
he's having an emotional attack.
He's having a little like Victorian lordling angry spike.
Yeah. So then I studied harder for many years so that I might succeed where my father failed and return the House of Rahl to its rightful place as ruler of all the lands, right? So because he wants to be in charge of all
Kingship.
three.
Yeah.
And then Demmin says, you have exceeded your father's deepest hopes, Master Rahl. But it's kind of, again, more of that, like, finding the balance as an adult between, like, satisfying your father. I don't know. I'm not saying it's saying anything definite.
No,
but it's like...
it's definitely... That's a parallel.
Yeah.
It's right there. Yeah.
Darken Rahl, in doing this, found out that the book of Counted Shadows was in the Midlands. Mm-hmm. And he at that point could not traverse the Underworld. So he couldn't get over there because the boundary was still up.
Yes, true.
So he sent a, quote, guard beast to protect it. Now, is a guard beast just the label of any old beast you send, or is a guard beast like a thing?
No, if you send any old beast, it becomes a guard thing, and not a guard beast. A guard beast it's from the Beast Union.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Is a guard beast? No.
No, I think it's literally a beast that's guarding a thing for him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't know.
So then, good old George Cypher killed the beast, kept the tooth. And Darken Rahl's like, that idiot, because that's my magic. Darken puts the Box of Ordin into play, and he was like, this is going to be easy. I know who has the book because of the tooth. And then that was when he went to George and disemboweled him, and that's where the story began with Richard's dad being dead.
Yep.
And...
we've come a long way.
I know. And...
wow. So many facts we know since then.
And so, he... tortured him, and George held up. He didn't give anything away, didn't tell him Richard knew the book.
George is clearly a real one. He's slaying the guard beast.
And then was like,
his tooth out.
He was like, I'll die with this information, and he did. He like realizes Richard's the one with the tooth, and that's when we go off. That's how I hooked the tracer cloud to him, by hooking it to the tooth his father gave him. Oh, it goes on and on. It's so fucking boring. And it's like shit that you're like, yeah, I know. I understood.
I know. Not only is it like you could sum it up, because like I don't think Demmin cares about the intricacies of this, but I definitely don't, because I've heard it 4 times already.
Oh, we didn't hear that. We didn't know that the tracer cloud was connected to the tooth, but that was all I needed to hear.
That's what I mean.
But I guess I did find the guard beast, the book,
that's
all of that.
No, for sure. No, we just don't need to rehash the cloud shit again. We know.
Darken Rahl asks Demmin to taste the gruel and see if it's too hot, and then Demmin just hands it off to one of the guards, which is like kind of funny characterization. Yeah. And the guard does eat it, and he's like, it's fine. Which is almost funnier that like Demmin wouldn't do it, and it's really just like, it's fine.
Well, so you got Darken, who like, this is very important for him, and he's like, I'm not eating that.
Right.
Hands it to Demmin. Demmin smells it and is like, I'm not eating that. Hands it to the guard. The guard's like, I have to eat it or I will be murdered. Like in his head. I'm assuming his mom.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, which is interesting because like Demmin clearly doesn't have that same level of fear, which makes me think for some reason Demmin is important and indispensable, but why? Why?
Because they grew up together and he's in charge of the guard. He's the lightning of Darken Rahl's
I want to see it. Show it to me.
I haven't seen it yet.
Then we go back to it. Demmin says Richard might get rid of the tooth.
Oh my god, yeah, why? Yo.
So then Darken Rahl's like, I have other ways of tracking him down. Demmin says, I can see now why you haven't been worried. I didn't know all of this. Like in response to the fucking info
quote?
drop. No.
Oh, this is a good one for you in the Darken Rahl.
What?
We have scarcely stroked the fur of what you do not know. Look, you.
Oh,
Rahl stand for life. I'm making you a shirt.
oh,
Holy
what a
hell.
queen.
What a queen.
Stroke the fur.
We have scarcely stroked the fur of what you do not know.
I'm going to start talking like this.
Please do.
And it's a bit like, yeah. And then he's like, that's why you serve me and I don't serve you, Demmin. And Demin's like, oh, I only want you to succeed and this and that. But I'm kind of like, I don't know. Well, I was like, if they've been working together a long time, doesn't Demmin kind of get it at this point that Darken Rahl like clearly has backup plans and like doesn't take kindly to these things? But I was like
one of these force-fed moments of like,
yeah, but I was like, maybe this is the first time they're doing this like type of big project.
True,
right?
Big project. Yeah, this is the first time they really got the engineers on board, opened some boxes of Orden.
It is.
Like we're doing lots of overtime here. Things are crazy in the department,
Yeah, kinda. And so then,
I
don't want to. This part's just. There's things that I feel like I need to say about the part that's coming up, but I don't want to.
So I'll say it. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, well,
I will voice that which you will not.
So then, just really casually, the text is like, Darken Rahl picks up the feed horn, and you're like, I'm sorry, what?
The feed horn,
What the fuck are you talking about?
The feed horn.
And then it does describe it.
Yeah.
Quote, a long brass tube, small out the mouthpiece, larger at the other end. The big end was held up to shoulder height by two legs, so the gruel would slide down. Rahl set it down so the mouthpiece was in front of Carl. So, it is literally like a beer funnel.
It's a feed horn. Yeah. It's a beer funnel for gruel.
But, fancy, because it's got a stand.
And it's got legs.
Because, Darken Rahl didn't want to be, holding the...
Well, not only did... Yeah, he didn't want to hold it up and be like, chug, Carl, come on, chug your gruel. But he also... He didn't want to hold it at all. He didn't want to touch it. There's
a lot here. There's so much here.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you're logically do you need this? Just fucking feed it to him. But you're like, ooh, Darken Rahl would not be...
That's lowering himself.
Right. But at the same time...
Yeah.
God. That would win Carl's affections far more than being given this fucking funnel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Carl accepts this far too quickly for my taste.
Horn boy.
And he immediately, it's part of the ceremony you will be in. The other young men who have helped the people in the past have thought it a most fun way to eat.
Should we try this? Can we get a feed horn?
No, ew. I don't want to do this at all.
Feed horn.
No. What? There's not a thing.
It's a thing.
No, it's not.
That's
It's not a thing.
These are satellite dishes.
Anyway, it's not a thing. Why would it be a thing?
It just isn't a thing. I kind of thought someone would have done something like this. But yeah, no, it's not a thing.
You put your mouth over the end there, and I serve you by pouring the food in the top. Carl says, really? I don't know.
Well, because it just doesn't sound so fun?
Yes.
It sounds like a fun way to eat.
Rahl said, smiling reassuringly. And guess what? I got you a fresh blueberry pie, still warm out of the oven. Great. He puts his mouth over the end of the horn.
Great.
Shut up.
Carl said, you got blueberry pie?
What the fuck? Carl would definitely have again. If I thought Carl was just being a sneaky little sneakster here who was like, this is what Darken Rahl wants, I will act excited and do it.
What a different tone that would
That's
have.
not how it reads.
No.
To me, it's not how it reads. It reads like I'm supposed to be like, yeah, Carl just doesn't give a shit. He thinks it's cool. Carl would not think it's cool. He might pretend to think it's cool. He might hate it. Those are the only two options. He doesn't actually think it's cool.
No.
You're gonna put a bunch of blueberry pie in that creepy funnel and I'm gonna eat it.
Just slurp it down like Violet Beauregard.
Is that really her name? Did you look it up?
Yeah! Oh man! I delivered it so straight. Like I just know that.
What the fuck? Oh.
It's fitting because of the blueberry, you know?
Yeah, I know, I got it.
Okay, good.
Just why did you take the time to, like, write that down?
I don't know. It's near the end of my notes, you know?
Okay. Yeah, so Darken Rahl's pouring it in and he, like, does magic and he's like, to make it taste like blueberry pie.
Yeah.
And he says, I had to mash it up so it will go through the feeding horn. Hope that's all right. And Carl says, I always mash it up with my fork, with a grin. And then he puts his mouth back over the horn and he says, it's great. The best I ever had. What the fuck? Are you kidding me?
Carl's just like, yeah, boy.
Like, this kid would do anything for blueberry
To be
pie.
fair, yeah, if you're a poor peasant and someone gets you some Quaker's blueberry and cream and serves it to you, like, you're going to freak out. You're like, this is the best thing ever.
I don't know.
Maybe this is real.
I don't know. He says, it's great, the best I ever had. I'm so pleased, says Darken Rahl. It's my own recipe. I feared it wouldn't be as good as your mother's. He says, it's better. Can I have more? And then we end with Darken Rahl saying, of course, my son. With Father Rahl, there is always more.
What?
Sorry.
The fuck?
So, like, this is what I don't want to say, but, like, seems obvious to me that there is obviously some sort of, like, imagery parallel with the Demmin proclivities, and now this, where you're kind of like, I don't get the sense that Darken Rahl is, like, getting off on this, like, in the same way that, like, a Demmin would.
Sure.
Right, but he's getting off on it in a different way. But, like, it's interesting. I was like, what is that? What is that?
It's adjacent to Demmin.
It's, of course.
I think it. So, I think it. Demmin is, you know, a pedophile in the ways that
in
people
the classical sense.
In the classical sense, you know, self-loathing and all these other things. Darken Rahl is this, like, I take him to be a true, like, sadist / humiliator, and he deeply enjoys humiliating and degrading others, which is kind of true of what's happening with Demmin. I think he thinks all humans are beneath him, which makes sense because he's trying to open the boxes and be master of all life. He thinks he deserves that. And he's getting off on it in that way. I think he's like, preying on the trustingness of a young boy, making him do things that are like pseudo-phallic, like things that are like, just like...
I don't know if I agree. I don't know.
What else? Like, what do you think's in there?
Well, like, so the horn does to me feel like it is just that it's so beneath Darken Rahl, like something really affectionate.
Like feeding someone.
Exactly. It's like he can't stomach that.
He can't.
So he's just being like weirdly utilitarian, and he's just like, this works.
Just like with the wooden spoon, like, here's the gruel, like pushing it in.
Yes, that's sort of what I get from it.
Yeah.
So then the, like, weird phallic imagery, I'm sort of like, why is that coming in? I don't know. I think it's just saying, like, this, even though this doesn't have the same sexual aspect to it, like, it's kind of
it's
like...
just as much of a violation.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways, he's taking as much, like, control and power away from Carl as Demmin does. So, and now tying it into the fact that they are old friends, old chums. Demmin
Yeah,
and Rahl.
right. So they have.
Did they develop these proclivities together? Is this some sort of like?
Oh, interesting.
You know, do they have this past of like? Are they like buddy serial killer type dudes? Like,
Well, yeah, I
kind
guess
of.
so.
I mean, literally, yes, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't buy Carl's the ease and exuberance with which he took to the feeding horn, but I just think the Carl
God, yeah.
Manipulation could have just
We could have drawn it out,
and
could
been
have more
subtler,
realistic,
etc.
and that would have made it more evil, in a way.
That's how I feel. Yeah, to me,
He's
that's
making it more. I don't know.
it has more of an impact, I think, if it felt like more and more like tense and like, ooh, it's happening so slowly and it feels really real, as opposed to there is something that creates the separation when it kind of has,
I agree,
this like expedited, over the top
theatricality to it,
Yeah.
or something.
But
I agree.
Overall, it was still all. I found both parts of the chapter entertaining. I like this chapter.
I actually think in discussion I like it better.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah,
That's
you
exciting.
brought a lot of insight.
That's why you were like,
didn't think
I
of
have
that.
nothing to say. I was like, I feel like I got a lot to say.
Yeah, I also think it suffered from me reading it longer ago than I normally do.
Well, I have to do my shout out.
Time for it. Let's go.
Frank doesn't even know who I'm shouting at.
Who we shouting out today?
Well, this one is going to potentially come with a terrible pronunciation.
Uh-oh.
Because I don't speak German.
Oh.
It's a clue. If you know, you know.
Give it to us.
Oh, drum roll.
I'm really not good at this.
Okay. It is. Today's shout out. Schwert der Wahrheit.
Schwert der Wahrheit!
Am I pronouncing that right?
I don't.
Did you know what it means?
No.
It's
what does
the
it mean?
sword of truth.
Hey!
I Googled it. Google Translate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So anyway, he is
Hi.
on Instagram. I don't know if you have other social media, but that's where I know you from. It's basically just like the German Sword of Truth stand account.
Absolutely. Number one.
It's the one. I wanted to shout you out because you were easily one of the very first followers we had, one
It's
of the
true.
very first people to message us, one of the very first people to like post our content, which we really appreciate.
To this day.
Right?
I'm
like he's the guy. So you've been very, very supportive, and you're kind of like a Sword of Truth community hub.
Yeah.
I feel like anytime somebody posts like a new cosplay, a new anything, you're on it, you post it.
Right there.
So if you like the Sword of Truth, which obviously you do if you're listening to this, you should definitely follow his account because like you're going to get Sword of Truth content. And he also always posts these very nice, like nature-y, they're just like nature videos of people going on these like walks in the woods.
It's a vibe, you know.
They're really nice.
It's a Richard Kalin
It is.
in the Westlands vibe.
I know. Every time I look at them, they're beautiful and I love them, and they do put me in the state of mind of this like book world.
I agree.
They're really nice.
Yeah, always posting like cool versions of the book.
That's
and,
what I
lots
mean.
of
Like
different art
really
and,
nice account.
Yeah,
good job.
Great account.
And I know you're working on, I think, a tabletop game right now.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Did you not see that?
I didn't see it.
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
Please.
We want more info.
I want to know
when it's going.
Yeah.
But everybody should definitely check him out. You're gonna get a lot of Sword of Truth content.
Hell yeah. And honestly, what else could you need in this life?
Yeah.
And with Father Rahl, there's always more.
All right. Well, we're gonna go eat chili now.
Yeah.
It's another really long episode. I hope you guys don't mind. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.